Kendra.
I'm Olivia.
And Josh.
And this is Our Music Oddcast. Today we're going to be talking about spontaneous musical talent.
Yeah, I have 3 stories for us today. I'm going to start off with my favorite and end with the weirdest of the 3. So first we're going to talk about actress Mary Steenburgen, who was born in Newport, Arkansas. She studied drama at Hendrix College and was eventually discovered by Jack Nicholson and starred as the female lead for Going South in 1978. She has been in films like Back to the Future 3, Philadelphia, What's Eating Gilbert Grape, Step Brothers, Elf, The Help, and TV shows like Bored to Death, Wilfred, and 30 Rock, and tons of other things.
Lots and lots of stuff. You've seen her. If you
Kendra, are you familiar with her?
For sure.
Yeah, and she's also married to actor Ted Danson now, and has been since 1985. Yeah. Okay, so in 2007, after going under anesthesia for a minor arm surgery, Mary woke up with an out-of-control feeling in her brain. She's quoted in IndieWire saying, "The best way I can describe it is that I just felt like my brain was only music, and that everything anybody said to me became musical. Every street sign became musical. I couldn't get my mind into any other mode." So she had to adjust.
That sounds tight.
Yeah, very weird. She said it took her a while to adjust because she almost had to get herself together because she couldn't really do anything else. She couldn't concentrate on many things, and she was having trouble parenting and just doing normal things. So she said she had to kind of tell herself you're not going crazy, but you need to get it together and stop spiraling.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but after she did adjust to this new side effect, which she described as at first scary and annoying, she didn't work for several months, and after that, she decided that she was just going to go with it, and she started learning about playing instruments, learning about how people wrote songs, and just, kind of studied songwriters. She started working with one of her friends that was a musician, and because she didn't know how to play anything at this point, she would sing the parts to her friend would transcribe them, and she wrote 12 songs and sent them to a music lawyer under a pen name and was able to get a songwriting contract with Universal Music.
Sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, she
That's
said...
pretty impressive. You know what? I'm sure part of that was that she was already famous and had connections.
Yeah.
But also the fact that she was just already talented enough, because if she fucking sucked, they would have absolutely been
yes,
maybe come back to us. We'll give you a shot because you're famous, but also the fact that it's under a pen name, so it's not she's trying to have her name to sell it,
She said the funny thing was that the lawyer assumed that she was a much younger person. So when he found out that she was a well-established actress, and she was older at this point, they were very surprised. And, it didn't affect anything, but she just thought that was kind of a funny thing also.
That's pretty awesome though. So that that says that she got her talent alone. So that's awesome.
Yeah, she said that she was able to kind of get into the heads of the characters in her songs or the people that she was writing songs about because of her acting abilities, because, she was used to kind of doing that and diving into these roles.
Yeah.
And Josh, I know you've mentioned in the past writing songs, that's kind of what you do. You make up these stories in your head and then kind of go from there.
Yeah, that's how it's done, basically.
Yeah, Kendra,
there's all kinds of ways to do it, but
Kendra, do you do the same thing?
Up.
I don't know. I kind of draw from life experiences and just places and snapshots in time and write a song about that. So it's usually from my own personal experience, or just making up something funny about something that's completely irrelevant and trying to make it sound deep and poetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to trick people. Oh wow, that was a really great breakup song. Yeah, it was about finishing dinner.
It's about taking a dump.
Yeah.
Yes,
you left my body. Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah.
We parted ways.
After a rocky start, the 54-year-old questioned her decision to jump into such an unfamiliar field because she said she would go into these sessions with some Nashville musicians and she didn't have the experience, and she was also the oldest person in the room, so it was kind of intimidating. And she said she even cried after the first session that she had. because of the label. And she, just spent the next decade trying to get better at both playing and writing. And she learned to play the accordion, which is an unusual.
First choice instrument, accordion. Yeah, there you go.
I love that that's the one. She's like, you know what? Like, fuck guitar. I'm going with accordion.
Weird Al.
This will express myself perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cute. You can find some videos of her actually playing the accordion and singing and stuff online.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I love that already so much.
Josh, you play the accordion. Is it a difficult instrument to pick up? It looks like it is
hard. It's very hard to do, yeah.
Yeah. Her grandmother was a multi-instrumentalist, and Mary actually believes that she had the same abilities as her grandmother, but just didn't have the access to that part of her brain, which I thought was interesting.
So maybe something about the anesthetics or whatever are getting put under.
It opened the door.
It.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like when people trip acid, and that opens a different part of your brain.
Yeah.
You kind of just view things a little bit differently afterwards. I don't know.
Yeah.
Next subject.
Yeah, she plays a lounge singer and actually sings an original song in the film, 2013 film Las Vegas. Her song Glasgow, No Place Like Home, was used in the 2018 film Wild Rose and was performed by actress Jessie Buckley, who she's in Fargo, in movie, I'm thinking of Ending Things.
The movie
really
Fargo
good.
or the TV show?
TV show. Did I say movie?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think you just said Fargo.
Yeah, she's a wonderful actress and such a good singer. I was surprised when watching. I haven't watched the movie yet. I'm going to.
Fargo, the musical.
No, the Wild Rose movie. That I would watch that.
How would they do the wood chipper scene as a musical?
I mean, they kind of do the same thing with Sweeney Todd.
Yeah.
You can do some dark
there's
stuff.
Potential there.
Yeah.
I'm down to see the wood chipper scene for sure in a musical format. That just sounds delightful.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody out there
a little bit, yeah.
do this.
Yeah, if you're gonna I feel like people on TikTok are making all these Pixar movies into musicals right now.
Yeah.
Like they did Ratatouille and they're gonna do Up or whatever next. But I feel like Fargo has potential.
Definitely.
Putting the call out there if you're like, I like to write music for musicals. Fargo.
Well, funny thing is, she says that, one of her next projects is definitely going to be writing a musical. So maybe we can, pitch that to her.
She should absolutely tackle it.
Yeah.
I'm sure she'd have some really creative things for the wood chipper scene.
Yeah. So her song for Wild Rose, the Glasgow song, was on a short list of songs that were going to be nominated for a 2020 Oscar. It didn't quite make the list, but and that ended up going to Elton John and Bernie Taupin. But she did win a Critics' Choice Movie Award for Best Song, Hollywood Critics Association recognition for Best Original Song, and recognition by the Houston Film Critics Society for Best Original Song. Right now, she's working on an animated project with Guillermo del Toro called Nightmare Alley, and she's doing the music for that. I guess it's not an acting part or voice acting part. And
dude, that sounds awesome. I love Guillermo del Toro.
Me too.
I just said that weird, but yeah, I'm a huge fan of his.
Yeah, she also won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress in the film Melvin and Howard in 1980, and she received her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2009.
Oh,
wow.
Cool.
Yeah.
She was in a lot of iconic things.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm all for it.
Yeah, she's an adorable person, too.
Yeah.
Her and Ted Danson both. Okay, so the next story is about a man named Derek Amato who kind of had a similar experience in 2016 after he suffered from a concussion after a bad dive into a swimming pool. When he was younger, he did have some experience playing music. He dabbled with guitar, his mom kind of pushed him to play an instrument and he didn't really want to. Yeah. And he also learned a little bit of drums, but he never had formal training, and he didn't know how to read music. He was trying to catch a ball in the shallow end of a pool and suffered a massive concussion. He rested for, 5 days, pretty much slept for 5 days after, doctors told him to, kind of take it easy and not do anything crazy. Days later, while at a friend's apartment, he found himself drawn to a keyboard in the corner of the room. and decided to just plug it in and hit a few of the keys. After he sat down and turned the keyboard on, his fingers went crazy and he just started playing and played for 5 or 6 hours without stopping. He, had no idea what he was doing, but it sounded beautiful. And his friend said that he, thought that maybe he was possessed by the ghost of Beethoven. But he was afraid that if he stopped playing that it might go away. Like it was just, something that he had tapped into. But yeah. But then, the next day when he woke up, he, still had that same feeling. He took his mom to a music store because he wasn't really sure how to tell people, like, oh, I can suddenly play really well. And just sat down at a keyboard and showed her. And she kind of had the same reaction where she was very confused. And he had to explain that, oh, after this, head trauma, I'm able to.
I'd like to have heard him play after one day of playing. And, like, what does that mean, playing really well?
I know. I mean, I guess they...
Like virtuosic, or could he, like, sort of play a little bit?
Said it was in classical style and without any formal training. Because it's funny because he doesn't even know how to describe what he's doing.
Yeah.
Like, I listened to an interview with him on this podcast for NPR, and they were trying to get him to play simple songs like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and he was talking about a friend asking him to play Happy Birthday, and he doesn't know how to play some of that stuff, but he can sit down and just come up with these, original compositions that sound intricate. You'd probably be a better judge than me. But you can find his music online. It might have some of his earlier stuff and then the newer stuff.
What was his name again?
His name's Derek Amato.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to look that up because that sounds interesting.
Yeah. So doctors told him that he had developed acquired savant syndrome and that it could go away as easily as it came. He decided that he was going to enjoy every single second that he could and continued to play. He's met with numerous neurologists who were skeptical of his story. And then while filming a documentary for the Discovery Channel, he met with Dr. Reeves from the Mayo Clinic, who described the condition as an overstimulated brain and said that, it could be treated with anti-seizure medication, and explained that he was kind of on...
Suppress that music.
Right, that he was kind of on like a roller coaster, that they didn't really know like the ups and downs of it, what was going to happen, or what kind of effect it would have on his brain long term. So he decided not to take the medication because, like I said, he, kind of wanted to go with it as long as he had it. Yeah, he didn't want to slow the firing of the neurons. The podcast I was mentioning is called the Hidden Brain Podcast on NPR. And he was interviewed and he talks about his acquired talent. And then he spoke with researcher and psychiatrist Daryl Treffitt about Derek. Derek had seen similar cases, so he didn't find his story as hard to believe. He said that when he hit the left side of his head while diving into the pool, he injured the left side of his brain, and that the majority of the acquired savant cases that he studied had left side injuries as well, with right brain compensation, trying to, make up for it.
Gotcha, yeah.
Interesting.
So there was some quasi-scientific explanation for it.
Yeah, he said that the abilities that tend to emerge usually have to do with art, music, and math. And art, music, and math are all skills that involve pattern recognition.
Oh, okay. So that reminds me of another story that I heard.
Mm-hmm.
Like this lady, she had an injury, and then when she got out of like her coma or whatever, everything she saw was numbers and patterns and physics and whatever. And there's a couple stories about people with math abilities overnight.
Yeah.
Not necessarily solving stuff that has been unsolvable for years, but definitely working through some of the crazier aspects of physics equations and whatnot.
Yeah.
Which is pretty dope.
It's not possible.
It is,
if those people injured the right side of their brain and they compensated with the left.
Yeah.
And then the left is more mathematical or whatever. I'm sure I don't know what I'm saying, but just go with it.
Yeah, it's fascinating. But she was the woman was describing trees and everything was an equation and everything had a number sequence. It was my initial thought when seeing that story was her brain basically turned into the Matrix.
Yeah.
Sounds like what you're
all
describing.
The numbers and codes and whatever. Sounds interesting.
She can just see it better than us.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. They also talked to, University of Pennsylvania cognitive psychologist Scott Barry Kaufman, and he went on to explain that these skills are built into the architecture of the brain, or your brain might be already hardwired for certain activities. So many of us learn, abilities without effort, like grammar when you're young. And for these savants who learn these skills with little effort, it doesn't, it doesn't feel like a learning experience for them. It feels like fun. It's just something that they love doing, and it's also like an extension of themselves. But he thinks that their brains were already hardwired for it, and it just like Mary's story where she said she was able to tap into something that she hadn't been able to before. Kind of a similar thing here.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and our last and weirdest story by far is about musical medium Rosemary Brown. She was born in 1916 in London, and at age 7, she had an experience with a spirit who had long white hair and told her that he would, eventually make her famous. So Mary had many experiences with spirits throughout her life, but what made her stand out was a number of musicians, all dead, who through Mary continued to write music. She transcribed pieces from Johann Brahms, Johann Sebastian Bach, Franz Schubert, Robert Schumann, Ludwig van Beethoven, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, Claude Debussy.
Can you imagine what her house looked like with all those spirits?
Oh yeah, and there were many others. I mean, she also talked to actresses and other people. She even mentioned speaking with John Lennon at one point, and he, his message was to tell kids to stay away from drugs. But she claimed that all these composers spoke to her in English, and that some of them controlled her hands, some dictated notes, and some even sung the compositions to her, or communicated physically, or psychically. Sorry, psychically. This all happened to her. Her husband had died, and she was working, supporting 2 children on her own, and she had an injury at work. It didn't explain much about the injury. It sounded kind of minor, but after that, these musicians started appearing to her and tried to get her to write down their unfinished works. So she's published 3 books on her own, Unfinished Symphonies, Voices from Beyond, Immortals at My Elbow, and then last one, Look Beyond Today.
Interesting.
She's got to be dead, right?
She died in 2001. Yeah. Her work...
Have experts looked at her compositions to see how they hold up comparatively?
Yes. Her work does display the style of the channeled compositions. There's a BBC documentary about her that was filmed in 1969. Sometimes she isn't able to play the compositions herself. She can just kind of write them out, and then other people play them because they're, beyond her talent. She's been featured in publications like Rolling Stone, TV shows all over the UK. She's performed in New York, and she's convinced many critics, and then there's many that, find the story utterly ridiculous. She's never been described as a fraud by anyone who's actually spent time with her or met her. Musicologists and psychologists believe that she believes that these musicians are dictating the music to her, but they think that maybe it's in fact coming from her own subconscious. Many others believe Rosemary's claims, and they think she's a wonder. British composer Richard Rodney Bennett was completely convinced. Peter Caton, a leading interpreter of Chopin, was impressed and even recorded many of her transcribed pieces. Okay, Professor Ian Parrott from Wales published a book of Rosemary's compositions called The Music of Rosemary Brown. And he believed that accomplished composers would have had trouble writing in the same style and essence of so many of these composers. He found it hard to believe that a woman with very little musical training could have done that. She did spend 3 years taking piano lessons, and it was something that she said she didn't do continuously for 3 years. It was just, whenever she had time, because she did have, 2 children that she was taking care of. She was observed by Professor Tenhoff, parapsychologist, who found her to be of sound mind and mental balance. And he said that she was very likable, honest, and modest. And very...
Okay. Yeah. It cut out, but... Oh,
yeah, she was very likable, honest, and modest, and certain of all of her claims. She died at the age of 85 in 2001, and you can find tons of videos of her and tons of little documentaries about her on YouTube and, other places online. I watched a a documentary by journalist Keith Parsons from the UK. But yeah, Josh, you can play piano really well. How possible do you think it would be for someone with, very little music training to not only like mimic these composers, but then to write in their style? I know everybody's, it's hard to say. It would be
next to impossible.
Okay.
Even with training, I don't even know what to make of that story, to be honest.
Yeah, it's very, very, very strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had...
that's, hell. Yeah, that's, I don't think you could really fake being like, yes, this is a composition by Bach, and then have it, actually hold up under scrutiny.
Yeah,
that's pretty impressive.
And then do it with a bunch of other composers, too. That's mind-boggling, really. Yeah,
they dissected some of her stuff, and they said, for someone that couldn't play it, she wrote, parts where each hand was playing in a different time.
Yeah.
Which seems, very... I don't know, because I don't write music, but it just seems like that would be very difficult to do for someone who, had very little musical training.
Right.
Yeah.
I wrote some stuff in college that was in the style of Bach. And I was a good composer, and I don't think there's a critic that would, believe that I was writing in the style of J.S. Bach.
Yeah.
But I could mimic it, and this was after years of training.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, I thought so too.
That's awesome.
Why it's definitely the weirdest story.
Rules.
Yeah.
I don't know. Some mediums though, I know that there's a lot of fakes out there, but I do believe in mediums, honestly. Not all of them, obviously, but there's some unquestionable, beyond the shadow of a doubt proof sometimes that some have given, which is pretty intense and interesting. Not just fishing around for things, but bold statements. And it's fascinating to hear their stories and whatnot. So I don't even care if people think I sound crazy. I totally believe it. I totally believe it.
Yeah, she said she came from a long line of psychics, that her mom and her grandmother both had psychic abilities, and that it really wasn't that weird for her. She said when she was younger that she had to learn to live with seeing people that other people didn't see, because it took her a while to realize that other people didn't see that. Yeah. And you hear so many stories about children where they have these imaginary friends that, could possibly be a ghost, or someone finds out there was a little kid that lived in the house before and passed away. So I don't find that strange to hear. I don't know what I believe about it. I haven't really put a ton of thought into it yet, but I do think that this is definitely something unexplainable. All the stories really are. Because you wonder, it seems a little bit easier to believe, the guy who had the head injury, because it's explained, why that worked for him. But then, Mary Steenburgen just going under for, a minor surgery, that I don't.
She also spent the next 10 years pursuing that. And you could take anybody, and if they work at something every day for 10 years, you'd get really good at it.
I agree with that. I was mostly, I guess, just talking about how she woke up and
it was
her head was different. She didn't think the same way.
I believe that, yeah.
It's just weird. That's why I thought these stories were so, interesting and worth talking about.
For sure.
What do you guys think about them?
Oh, I totally believe the last one for
Rosemary.
Sure.
Yeah, it's too ridiculous.
And the first one, I just think it's cool. It's something happens and boom, random talent. It makes me think of all the things that were all actually in a simulation.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
For the guy that can all of a sudden be a composer, it's oh, did you flip a glitch in the Matrix or something?
Right. Download the program to him.
Yeah, I thought what was cool about Mary's story, the first one, too, it's just cool that she, later in her career when she didn't need to and already, was well established in one profession, that she decided to try something completely different. And, even though it didn't work at first and it was intimidating, that she stuck it out, and now it's paying off.
Yeah.
I like that, because you don't hear about a lot of people making a big change like that later in life.
That's very true.
Yeah. But in the second story, I don't know. I didn't think the guy was lying about it, especially after listening to an interview with him.
I don't know what he was doing before he hit his head on the pool. Maybe he was studying piano and lying about it for
He could have been. Yeah, very well could have been.
I don't know why he would lie about that, but
Yeah, because you're not going to get that much fame for long, pretending like, oh, I had, this.
like I'm a good piano player.
Yeah. That and he didn't.
Especially like people, it's like some people, like when they write, like they just hear it and they know where the note is.
Yeah.
They can just figure it out. So like in no time they can just, like I've met people that are like crazy talented at things and they hear a note and they can immediately play it, but like that's because they know their instrument so well.
Yeah.
But then being able to compose like immediately like that, like that's really talented. Like some of the most talented musicians I know, like that's how they play. They'll just like hear something and immediately like pick it up and go for it. But yeah, I don't have that talent. I mean, I guess I can sing like that, but I don't really have the range to pull off a lot of that.
Yeah, it seemed like he was, more than willing to let himself be studied by lots of professionals. So I think that, even after many were skeptical, so I think that, that could have weeded out a lot right there. Or, I guess either he was just real committed to that con, but I found it believable.
Yeah, it's not unbelievable. Like it's plausible that he acquired some talent, and it's not like he became the world's greatest,
right?
Piano player or composer. Just became extra talented.
Yeah, it was weird because he was describing in the interview also about just how his brain worked a little bit differently. So the interviewer had him like look at the wall behind him, and there was just like different shapes and things on the wall, and he wanted him to like play what he was seeing, and it was kind of cool because he was explaining why he was playing certain notes and why he was playing a certain way. And just came up with like his own song on the spot about the wall, which
Kanye West had a thing like that where he would do like artwork and paint visually how he saw his beats or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it was like a painting of some, like, I don't know how to describe it, but he could visually and color like describe his music.
That's really cool.
What's that called? Like where people like hear colors or like or see sounds with like colors.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can't think of what it's called though.
I can't remember the name of it, but like that's a whole thing. I know of a couple of people that have that. It's pretty interesting.
That really
like you have like different associations in your brain.
Yeah.
With, like numbers and colors and sounds and stuff like that. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, there's still so much that we don't know about the human brain, and we're learning all the time.
It's like synesthesia, or it's like something. I think synth is in it somewhere. Can't remember, but I think that's cool. Like I love hearing stories like that.
Yeah, it makes me think of the weird story when we were talking about coma patients and how they react to to music differently, like under, and I'm not explaining that well, about how coma patients react to music while they're out, and sometimes they're able to like bring them out of comas and
yeah, we did that episode.
About the Tom Petty song,
right?
Yeah,
woke that person up,
free falling.
Yeah,
sure.
But yeah, I just thought these were kind of cool.
No, I love it. Like that's, I think it's fascinating.
Me too.
Very interesting. Mm-hmm. But yeah, do any of them sound like lizard people though? I guess is the next question.
All of them. What?
I would say, maybe because the last story about Rosemary Brown is the strangest, maybe that one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I don't see lizard people being psychics.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe no lizards in this one. Yeah, and for people that, are new listeners, we early on as a joke, we kind of decided to start asking like who might be the lizard person in the story. And that's why, at the end we try to discuss that for people that, have no idea why we talk about that.
Yeah, it's just all in good fun.
Yeah.
It's like, but who could be the imposter? Like, who is the lizard person?
Yeah. And I think that started after maybe our shapeshifter episode.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you want to have reference to that, definitely go back and listen to our shapeshifter episode.
Yeah, about Billy Corgan.
Yeah.
I think that about wraps it up for today. So does anybody have anything to add before we say goodbye?
Yeah, if you get a chance, send us a review, send us any requests if you know of a good story that you want us to cover. You could.
Can they do that? Can someone do that?
I can
Do
have
they
that.
have that capability?
Yeah, we're on, all social media platforms, and our email is ourmusicodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, say hi. We've got the Instagram and all the things. So, and if you have any ideas of stuff that you think that we should talk about that we're missing right now, just go ahead and send us a suggestion.
Yeah.
That would be very cool.
Send us your story if you're a musician and you have something strange to tell us. We'll also, talk about it, or even if you want to come on the podcast, we'll give you a call.
Yeah. So I think that about wraps it up. I hope everybody has a wonderful day.
Me too.
Or evening or morning or whatever, whenever you're listening to this.
2021.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're finally in 2021. So
Yeah.
Did it.
Not off to a wonderful start in the U.S., but
Let's not talk about it.
yeah, onward to better things, hopefully.
yes.
So
Yes, for sure.
all right, just
Yeah,
get it
bye.
up there, I guess. Yep.